Maths is considered to be one of the most scary subjects across the world for the students.
A small error and you lose the entire answer will be wrong.
Growing up, if there's one subject that is known to give nightmares to innocent children, it is mathematics. But over the years, many creative ways of formulas have been developed to make math not only fun but easy to understand and grasp. NIIT, which specializes in offering learning solutions to individuals, enterprises and institutions across 40 countries, has been running the popular nguru Math Lab program that enables school students to learn and explore mathematical concepts.
Maths is an interesting subject. I like to learn new concepts.
I'm kind of a maths lover. I love maths.
The idea of Math Lab was born somewhere in the early 2000s, and around 2007 we formally, after all the homework we had done, launched this offering called the Math Lab. Now, the Math Lab is not just a computer with some software. In a school, we ask for a room, and we first build an environment. So you have photographs of Aryabhat and great mathematicians and images and pictures. So you build an environment which is fun and bright, a lot of colors. And then we want children to experience mathematics, and we want them to play mathematics and collaborate.
The new NIIT nguru Math Lab Plus program uses color, touch, sound and interactive technology tools that enable school students to learn and explore mathematical concepts.
Maths Lab in our school is set up by NIIT and we get to explore new things in mathematics. Before Maths Lab, we just thought that maths was all theoretical. It was so boring and all.
Since Maths Labs have been inculcated in our schools, they have helped students to learn maths practically and not cram it.
Going to Maths Lab and cutting and pasting kind of things are really interesting. And maths have been attractive more than it was before.
Math Lab has created a great impact on our thinking abilities. It encourages actually critical and creative thinking.
Math Lab Plus enables teachers to explain abstract mathematical ideas by using concrete objects, models, charts, graphs, pictures, posters, etc.
Maths Lab is a method of learning maths. See, maths as a subject is, nobody has a doubt how important it is. But our challenge was how do you make learning math and teaching math to be interesting such that the children begin to enjoy the subject.
We started with NIIT Maths Lab in our school in the year 2011. It has been a huge success with the students of our school. They have stopped fearing out maths. The formulas they used to cram earlier, now they can actually derive those formulas, and the retention is much more longer than what it used to be earlier.
Maths is taken as a subject of fear, and now with the hands-on practice and with the visualization of the problem, the subject has become simpler.
बड़ी बड़ी हमको अच्छा लगता है कहना घड़ी घड़ी कभी इधर से कभी इधर से कभी उधर से कूदते हैं गाते हैं हम भी ऐसी के भागे हैं नाटक लेके आते हैं एक विश्व का सब बच्चों को जहाँ गणित है भाता बिना रटे ही सब समझे कोई न बोले कि हमें नहीं आता.
To discuss this amazing impact of Math Lab classes at schools all over India, the NIIT nguru Math Lab event held in New Delhi recently witnessed a huge gathering of Math Lab gurus, parents and their young, bright children, all excited to discuss its impact and benefits.
We worked with one of the leading consulting companies, one of the big four, and said, let's create a framework where we should be able to discover two things. One is on the quantitative aspects, whatever is the possible measurements, how has a given school compare its performance of students now that they have Math Lab versus before math lab. That is one space. Second is many of these things cannot be measured because learning maths, not having fear, wanting to, there's also a cultural thing there. There is a psychological, cultural thing. So how do you measure that? So we said that will be the qualitative part. In qualitative part, you interview principals, teachers, students, and have conversations with them. And out of that, glean out what do they feel on those couple of threads.
Five times World Chess Champion Vishwanathan Anand was the central attraction of the event. He endorsed NIIT's holistic and futuristic approach towards state-of-the-art education that has been designed to help different people perform to their fullest potential through different programs.
This year we have this NIT Math Lab Impact Study, which confirmed that students who study in a fun way, they're able to play with these tools, understand concepts, solve problems, collaborate with each other and so on. They did better in maths, they did better in studies in general, and they were more confident about facing maths problems.
A panel discussion among teachers, students and their parents analyze how the idea of mathematics has been redefined and made easier, interesting and fun to learn.
So let's start a panel discussion with asking the educators here their views on why study maths.
You pick up the daily life of the most commonest forms of life and profession, or the most intricate of professions, the most, whether it's a student or it's the Prime Minister of a country, whether it's the scientist or the sabziwala, you find maths is there in the way they operate, in the way they build their efficiency, in the way they think. So if maths is all around us, how can we possibly ignore it?
I feel that maths, basically the problem with maths that people think is that it is based on calculation. Maths is not actual calculation. Maths is far beyond calculation. It develops your logical ability. And logical ability is something which is required in all spheres of life. So be it whichever profession, you can be a scientist to a carpenter, as ma'am already said. It can be anyone. Logic is required at every sphere of life.
Arpit and Ayushi, so you are the we are the people who talk about maths, but you're the ones who need to study maths. What are your views on, the significance of maths, and as a student, do you feel it's really important to study it?
Like every subject requires maths. We need to study maths if we want to study any other subject. It's like if we study chemistry, balancing an equation requires maths. If we study physics, it's all about maths. Maths is there in every sphere of life. It's something like like the NIIT organized this event. How many members are coming? What is the budget of the event? It all requires maths. So we need maths and we need to study maths, and it's not at all difficult.
Maths skills is required for every activity you do in your day-to-day life. As ma'am rightly said, from a grocer who's selling vegetables in the market to a CFO or a CEO of an organization, they are dealing with maths. So you have to be very, very strong in maths. It is important.
When it comes to learning maths, it's sometimes quite a stressful and a dreadful experience. So what are your thoughts, as an educator?
If maths is taught in a way where they learn the practical usage of maths, they'll relate to the working of the maths, they will understand the concepts, they don't have to mug up formula.
So Vishy, what's your reaction to the significance and then, learning the subject?
Basically, when I played chess, there are things that you can decide are very difficult because you tried a few times and you failed. There are things that you enjoy because you had positive experiences. So it's very important that when initially that something is done in a fun way so that you approach it positively all your life. The second thing is, how do you make it fun? Well, I found playing practice games much more enjoyable than studying, so that's what I did. And the third thing is how chess, just like maths, is very conceptual. You often visualize what a position is going to look like in 5 or 6 moves down the line. Same thing happens in maths. Everything is conceptual. the equation's only one way of writing a concept. So if you combine these things, you find interesting and different ways of teaching maths, you make it fun, then I think you solve this problem that many people have of developing a kind of maths anxiety.
What kind of innovations, have you tried out as an educator, or your school has tried out to make maths a more fun and engaging subject?
Like, we have the maths lab, which was established in our school in 2004. And then with the help of NIT, we renovated it in 2011. Along with the maths lab, we also have a maths park, Mathematica. In maths park, we have different 3D objects. So it is not that students have to think as to what is a prism, what is a pyramid. They can actually sit in the swings, measure it themselves, see the different 3D shapes and play with them. So that kind of a feeling which is there, they are more related to the things in the park and they can learn it in a better way.
Trigonometry is one of the, considered is one of the most difficult subjects in mathematics. But at our school, our teachers told us that you have to make a clinometer to measure the heights of the building. So no, we don't have to put the formulas on the paper and take out the height of the building. We do it with a clinometer, which is an instrument to measure the heights of the building. So it becomes very easy. Like, the most difficult part of maths is the most easiest now for all of us. So the practical learning and the maths lab, the maths exhibitions, the maths lab manuals, all have helped us so much that maths is becoming interesting now rather than being a stressful subject.
And what about your approach to maths as a parent when it comes to teaching your child? And I know he's too young to be bothered with too much of concepts, but still, how do you kind of...
I imagine I'll, if I want to sit with him and work on maths or something, I'll probably have to do a lot of research myself and use the materials that you find to show him stuff. Luckily, he's already starting to play with blocks and things like that. And one day soon, I will be trying to explain some of the stuff to him.
Thank you, panelists. Big round of applause for you.
We have a very good solution in mathematics. Now we have evidence. So even where people and teachers sometimes are hesitant or doubtful, I think this report should help them to decide. It's not that they don't know. Many of them know, but they're hesitant. They feel that, IT you have to teach, you have to have IT. It's like chemistry, you need a chemistry lab. IT, you need an IT lab. But for math, whether you can, IT lab can help. I think this evidence is now quite clear.
The equation is only one way of writing the concept.
The NIIT nguru Math Lab event held to discuss the impact of Math Lab classes on students came up with some interesting findings. An impact study commissioned by NIIT covering 11 states across India clearly showed that Math Lab had a positive impact on students' performance in mathematics.
Just to give you some background, again, backgrounds have been given, but around, if you look back at about 2000, 2002, whatever NIIT was doing in schools was to do with teaching IT education, and that was obvious, that was normal, because today we have about 33 years of IT education behind us. And there was this thought of we need to do something more, and frankly speaking, we didn't know what. We had at that time the chance of an ex-principal who joined us in Chennai. He was a principal, but his devotion, passion, and if you give him a chance, he will put all the mathematicians in his house with garlands, was maths. And he was the initiator. Unlike in NIT, many things get initiated by the people who work here. He was the initiator who said that we need to do something here in math. And he quoted math anxiety as one very, very important thing, which was difficult for some of us to understand, but we were quite okay in maths. I think all these are the background why around 2003 we put together our first pilot math lab. So that's the background, and though we had a lot of anecdotal references from our field people, from teachers whom we knew, we talked to, a lot of anecdotes on how we enjoyed, how our kids are enjoying. We said now it's time to put our hands around it and try to put some measurement and some parameters. It may not be the best. We cannot cover the whole country, lakhs of students as our samples. But let's make a big leap.
74% of students indicated that they preferred learning mathematics using MATLAB. They felt that MATLAB made the subject more interesting, cleared concepts and encouraged interactive learning. According to students, teachers and principals, MATLAB also helped to develop logical thinking. Teachers felt that MATLAB increased their effectiveness and enabled them to explain concepts better. The study also found that MATLAB played a major role in improving the performance of students in Class 10 board exams. The share of grade A students went up from 38% to 46%, and they showed improvement at all levels, performing better than the control group in most topics. In fact, an average of 88% of respondents gave a positive rating on all the parameters of MATLAB. Overall, 95% of students, 84% of teachers and 85% of principals who responded gave a thumbs up to MATLAB.
We now have statistical proof that learning a subject in an enjoyable way brings a measurable improvement in performance. That's the advantage of having this impact study. And even me, when I was playing with some of the mathematical tools just yesterday in the lab in Hyderabad, you start to remember stuff that you had learnt in school, and suddenly you have a flash. This is the reason there was that formula or something like that. And would you believe there were students who were explaining to me Pythagorean tree fractals and cuboids, and these are students from the 8th standard or 9th standard, and I found this really remarkable that they had developed the confidence in the maths lab to not only understand these concepts, but to be able to explain them. We all know that it's one thing to understand how something works, but to be able to explain it clearly, I think really shows something. So I'm very, very excited that the NIT Maths Lab has been shown in this impact study to have a very, very positive impact on performance.
Representatives of various schools at the event endorsed the study and talked about how MATLAB had aided students.
If you visualize the problem is solved and the solution becomes easier. The same thing is applicable for this Maths Lab, and this is what we are doing for the last 3-4 years in Maths Lab in our school, and children finding it easier to do maths now as compared to previous. It is just like I can say, just like a smartphone. You can expose the children to this smartphone and you will see the applications given by the children to you. Thank you.
When we talk of technology driven programs, we need to have technology which is motivating, which has a lot of content, and at the same time it is user friendly. So in context of the content, the methodology, the motivation to the students, it is simply superb, and as regards the user friendly part, it is superbly simple.
As the evening drew to a close, these beaming faces proved one thing, that any lesson that is learnt with enjoyment and engagement invariably leads to better results.
I think we do know that more and more schools have already embraced IT to teach IT. That's a very large number. Now such schools are being encouraged to say, why don't you teach other subjects as well? And we have a very good solution in mathematics. Now we have evidence. So even where people and teachers sometimes are hesitant or doubtful, I think this report should help them to decide. It's not that they don't know. Many of them know, but they're hesitant. They feel that IT you have to teach, you have to have IT. It's like chemistry, you need a chemistry lab. IT, you need an IT lab. But for math, whether IT lab can help, I think this evidence is now quite clear. So we are very hopeful that more and more schools will embrace this for the benefit of children. And once children learn math, then they will go home and learn it other ways as well.